Alright, okay. Hello everyone, back for another evaluation, another FMP evaluation for this week. So let's get straight into it. The first thing I want to bring up, or the first thing I want to talk about, is how I think now would be a good time to start updating the things like the checklist and the Trello board, as in I feel like I've been making a lot of good progress recently. Yeah, it'd be a good time. It'd be a good um, idea if I start showing it. If I start if the Trello board and the checklist start showing it. It really, and this is what I was saying before when I started the Trello board. Is really I should have been doing this week by week, but as I said, but I've just been getting so caught up in actually doing the work in making sure I have enough time for everything that I almost was forget about it again. But this time I want to make sure I don't. This is what I was saying before. Is I don't want to leave it too late, and I definitely don't want to leave it to like the end of the till I get everything finished. So I think now would be a good time to start updating it and showing the updates and showing what I have and what I have completed and what still have left to do. I think again. I think it would be a good. Hang on, if I should have done this before. Oops. There we go. That's better. Um, because I think now that I've gotten made a bit more progress with the project, I think maybe now I could start adding new lists. But also, something else I meant to do, or something else I said I was going to do, was I was going to be a bit more specific with each task. Because at the moment I've just kind of done titles for each one, and then I think I need to be a bit more. It'd be a better idea if I go into a bit more detail with each one, and so yes, I still have that to do, and I think now I can start updating it and showing it in a bit more how it's a bit more accurate, in a bit more accurate light. Um, so that's the first point I want to bring up is that I want to start updating the Trello board and be adding a bit more detail to it. Maybe adding more lists of tasks I need to complete. It especially now that I've started looking into new subjects like texturing and things like it'd be a good idea if I start um, planning out how the process is going to be. I guess planning out step by step um, how I'm going to continue the rest of the project. Then I think it'll be much better. Cause I was just thinking about because Rob was talking about how the reason he suggested using the Trello board was that he wanted us to be a little bit more detailed, a little bit more go into a bit more detail about what our plans for the project is, opposed to what we did for the action plan we made for the proposal. Oh, I don't think I've done a good job of that up until now. So I want to show a little bit more work a bit more on the Trello board and add more detail to it. So that's one job I have for. for this week. Moving on, and this week I've been spending most of my time working on the research part or the written parts of my site. Right. I know I said that I would like break it up in the week, break up the different tasks I have to do throughout the week. But I haven't started doing that yet. Mainly because I've heard that we've got a holiday coming up, a 2 week Easter holiday coming up. Now I'm not sure when it is yet, but my plan so far is that through those 2 weeks, I will use those 2 weeks to get a lot of. I want to just work on my modeling in those 2 weeks. I just want to completely focus on modeling. So before that happens, I want to try and get all the written work, as much of the written work completed before that happens. And so that's why I've been focusing so much on the written work this week. Um, the main here we go. The main the main research that I've been working on this week was I've started researching into textures. I started researching in the textures for the model, or what kind of materials are going to be used in an environment like this. And the reason I started the research in the textures so soon before because I didn't want to get caught out again like I did with the research for the modeling, as in I tried to start modeling, and I discovered some other things I should have looked into. I should have researched myself. An example being the 3D how 3D artists or how 3D artists measure scale in 3D environments using basic human models in blockout environments. And I didn't want to continue modeling without showing that I've researched that subject. I didn't want to continue because I felt like I should at least know something about that. I should know something about that subject before I continue on. And so I had to stop modeling and come back, do some more researching, and then I would then go back. And I didn't want to do the same thing for the textures, so I thought it would be a good idea to start research for the textures early. So first, I wasn't really sure where to start when I started looking into the kind of textures I was going to use. It was for the model. So I just thought I thought it would be a good idea just to get the picture up, get the sketch that I did up, because I think it's the best representation I've got of my idea for the idea of the model. And I started looking into how kind of justifying my choice of using wood in this kind of environment, and saying that you're looking at real Navy ships and how real Navy ships have got wood inside them to and I thought that would make a nice addition to my model. Oh, but I was also gonna start looking into what kind of wood would work for this model. Oh, and I didn't actually I didn't do that. So I actually that's another point. I think that would be a small point to look into. The main I wanted to start looking the main I wanted to start looking at the main material or texture that I was going to use throughout the room. Like what was going to be the what was going to be the room was going to be made out of, basically. And so first, I kind of started looking at like what real Navy ships are built from, because I felt like that would be the most appropriate material, or the most appropriate example to start looking at. Um, but then I thought, well, looking it into, then I thought it would be, then I had the idea to start looking into like what real spaceships are made out of because as but I was kind of what's the word, not conflicted, but I had to, I think when I was doing this research, I kind of got a bit too, shall we say, carried away with the kind of real life implications of these materials. So like how stainless steel is used on ships because it's because of its strength and its durability, and because it can handle the kind of the effects of the sea. And the same goes with, well, it's similar for like the aluminum alloys, as in it's strong enough and solid enough to to hold people and to make a ship, but it's also light enough to escape uh, gravitational pull. But again, what I mean by getting carried away is that obviously my model doesn't have to take these factors into account. It's again, it's fiction. It doesn't need to make perfect rational sense. But in the end, I made the decision that I think that going with the kind of stainless steel material or texture would be the best choice, because I think it would be very difficult to one. I think it would be very difficult to find like an aluminum type texture or material online, and but two, I just think stainless steel would look better, and look more, shall we say, official, if you will, and it looks like more, shall we say, more solid. And the kind of material, like it will be able to take some damage. It can still be able to fly. Um, but I came up with I said, I pointed out how my project is supposed to take place in the future, and so it kind of I can use the kind of, what's it, suspension of disbelief, and kind of to make up a, if I don't, I'd kind of say that I could that they managed to find a material that looked like stainless steel, and works in space. Is the point being is that I don't have to think about it so realistically. I don't have to be. I have to, and that's, I suppose, the benefit of being an artist is, well, in this case anyway, is that I don't have to think of the real life applications of any of the design choices I make, like because as overall, my job, or my goal throughout this project, is just to make it look as good as possible, to make the environment look as good as possible. And if I think that steel would make a better material, a better texture for the majority of the room, then I'm able to make that decision. And but it's very how do you say, nice not having to take those things into account. But I realize as well, obviously in work or in they will give it, I will be that probably won't be the case. Is probably have to take a lot of different things into account, take a lot of different factors into account, which again is not a bad thing, and it would probably quite interesting, and quite interesting work, like to uh, try and understand, try to uh, pick the best materials, probably that probably won't be my job as a 3D model. It'll probably be a texture artist, probably be their job. But anyway, the point being, for now, I don't have to worry about the real life applications of this. Oh, hang on, just realized. There we go. I don't have to think about the real life applications for these materials, and I'm able to pick whichever I think would look the best. That's what I'm trying to get across here. Next, I mentioned that I'm going to be probably going to be using ambient CG for a lot of these textures that I'm going to use. Ambient CG is a very useful texture site, online texture site, which allows you to download a lot of high quality textures for free. And I used this software, I used this website last year for my last FMP, and it worked fine. But this year I wanted to try and look for other texture sites, right? Because I kind of had a problem, not a problem, but I wanted to try and make the texturing process a little bit more simple, a bit more easier, I guess, because the problem I have, or not, the difficulty with ambient CG textures is that they, I think they call it bump maps. They use bump maps, and the idea of these bump maps is that as far as I understand, is that they come in like a folder. They come with a when you download a texture, they come in like a folder with a lot of different and shall we say layers. And so you've got like the bump map, you've got the normal map, you've got the metal, like the metalness map, the replacement map, the bump map, and everything. And as far as I know, as far as I understand, all these layers, all these textures are supposed to go on top of each other, and when they do, they give a bit of depth to the texture, adding a bit of height, and of course making it look better than just a standard 2D picture or image texture. And see, the reason I was trying to find an alternative is because I haven't figured out yet how to add all of these layers together. And so far, I've only managed to add at least 2 of these layers together, and to be fair, they do give good results. I was trying to see if I could find other textures that would give maybe the same results, but would be a little bit more simpler, or a bit easier to add to each of the models in the room. And because I've got considerably more objects to texture this time around than I did last year. So at first I found Polyhaven, in which of course another texture site. I didn't really find a lot of useful textures on this site. Most of the textures they had were like outside textures, like brick, stone, walls. And again, they wasn't be very useful for this kind of interior sci-fi environment. And I did try and look at like the wood textures that they had on offer, and from what I remember, they weren't as basically weren't what I was looking for. Maybe I could go back and try to see if I can remember and see if I can see anything else that might work. But so far, I didn't really think a lot of the textures that they had on offer, or a lot of the free textures they had on offer, would be very useful for my project. Right. The next site I looked at was Texture.com. Now they had a little bit of a better variety of textures. Like I managed to find this kind of leather fabric material, and the reason I picked this leather fabric material because I thought it would be very good for like the sofa in the office. Yes, so that I picked that one, and I also found this kind of sci-fi panel material, and I thought that would be perfect for the floor, for the walls, for the ceiling, and so I downloaded these two textures, and I wanted this time I posed from last year. I wanted to test these textures out first because I kind of ran into an issue last year. Well, I picked a lot of textures but I didn't test them out, and so I tried them, and they didn't give me the results that I was hoping for. Oh, but I decided just to use them anyway. Yeah, and the ones that didn't work, or the ones that were just too different, I decided to just leave. So this year, I've kind of thought it would be a better idea if I test them out first. So I went into Blender, made a completely new hang on, and just kind of here we go. This is it. So this is the new. Uh, so this is the new texture file that I've made, and in this file, I've just used it as like a way of testing different textures. Yes, and as you can see, these are the results. So these are the different textures that I tried out. Now, what I found out from doing these tests was that just because I tried the texture.com textures, but at first I didn't think they would work because at first they were just very flat 2D images. And again, they didn't really look the best, and I wasn't really that pleased with them. So at first, I was gonna try something else. I was gonna go back to Ambient CG and download some of their textures. But I realized that the reason that they didn't look the best, or the reason why they didn't look the way I was hoping, was because I didn't add the other. Hang on, I'll show you. Here it is. No, go back. Was because I didn't add the other bump map. The other bump maps. So, so in the end, I just decided that because at first I wanted to try and get away from using these kind of not no, I wouldn't say they're overcomplicated, but it can be kind not what's the word? I was hoping to find a more simplistic way of getting good textures, but in the end, and I decided because this setup, what I've done here, the setup of the what they call nodes, it's exactly what I did on the last FMP project I did with the lightsabers. And this is exactly the same node setup that I used, and as you can see, I'm very, as you can see, well, I think it adds a bit more depth to the texture, adds a bit more realism to it, I kind of forgot how good it looked using this method. So in the end, I just decided I changed my mind, and because this looked so good, and because I've had to remind myself how to do it because it's been so long. So this is why hang on, if we go all the way back down here, sorry, go all the way down, and because these two videos I used, well, not this not the bottom one, but this the top one I used last year on my last FMP project, and it showed me how this I haven't written about it yet. I still need to do that. I need to write about these two, but it shows me how to set up the bump maps correctly over each other so that they have that kind of depth, that 3D, not yeah, that kind of 3D effect to them. And that's how I learned to use the bump maps. Oh, that's how I learned to use the bump maps last year. And so, considering how well they looked, I was kind of imagining how the rest of the environment would look with the rest with this texture, this method of texturing. And I thought that it would be that going to the extra effort of setting up the nodes would be worth it. But it's not. But now I think about it, it's not so bad either, because once you get once you have this setup, all the nodes connected in the right way, I could just copy them and paste them over to each object, and then all I have to do is connect the two normal nodes here, the bump maps over to the principal shader, and that will give the desired effect when texturing. So yes, in the end I was trying to find a more simplistic way of doing it, but in the end I feel like the old way, or the way the method I used last year is still the best. It's the best looking method I've got so far, and so I'm planning to use the same method for texturing my object, or texturing my environment. Um, and also I also tested it because I wanted to see how. Let's go here and click on this. I'll get to this other cube later. But if you see in what's going on, if I go back to, oh, have I not got a light there? There we go, that's better. So if we add a light, I wanted to test how I wanted to test how these textures would look like in the light, right? And see if they would reflect light, and see if they basically see if they worked. And as you can see that as the light moves around, and that it reflects, especially off the metal over here. Because again, this is the sci-fi panel texture that I thought would be good for the ceiling and floors, and walls. And as you can see, it reflects really well with the light. This texture over here, which again I found on texture.com, is like a space blanket, kind of texture that astronauts that you could probably see on the International Space Station. And I picked this texture because I thought it would look good. It would add the kind of space sci-fi theme, it would work with the space sci-fi theme that I was going with. And with this texture, I thought it would be more appropriate. It would be like used for the assets, like on the wall, or like hanging off the wall, like how I mentioned when I was looking at the office from Infinite Warfare. if you can see, from Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, you can see, maybe it's a bit hard to see because it's so, might be a bit too small. And see if I can get a better. Here it is. And like how you can see in these images that they've got like lots of here we go, that's better. They've got lots of assets hanging off the walls. I can use a different one. And I thought that using that kind of space blanket material, like using that over those kind of objects would make it look good and would make it fit the theme that I'm going with, or that I'm going for. So I thought that would be a good way of using that texture. And then this other texture over here. This other texture, if I get closer to it. This other texture is like the fabric, or the leather fabric material. And it looks, now that I've added the nodes to it, the bump maps and the nodes to it, it looks a lot better. It looks a lot more like how it's supposed to. Ooh, it looks a lot better like how it's supposed. It doesn't look like now. It doesn't look like a flat image. But at the same time, but I think it would look better once the model is more rounded and less sharp, and has less sharp corners. I think if the object was a bit more of a rounded shape, it might look a bit better. Because again, think of like fabric material being in a kind of a having sharp corners, or having a sharp shape to it, because like fabric and material is supposed to be soft. So I think so for now I think it will make a nice texture for the sofa, for the inside, or for the seating area of the sofa. And so that's what I'm planning to use this texture on. Then the next thing I wanted to try out was using UV mapping for the outside, for the background, for the space background. So how I'm going to show the space, how am I going to show this space outside of the window? Now, my first idea was just to use, so this is just a normal shape, a normal object that I've used, but I've gone online, found like a image of space, a high texture image of space, of stars, and I've just used the image texture to wrap it around the shape. But I had to use UV editor to get the image to wrap all the way around the image, all the way around the shape. And that's how I managed to get this effect. And hang on, go back. And that's how I managed to get this effect, if you will. But and so my plan is just to have this kind of shape outside the window. So obviously, once you look inside, or once you look outside, you would just see this image outside, and that's it. And that would be the quick and easy way of doing it. But I was hoping I was hoping to add a bit of like a 3D effect to it, so that as the camera moves, you can you could see how the perspective of the environment outside move, but I don't know how I would do that. But also, I don't want to take up too much time trying to figure out how to do that. And I'd rather get the entire office finished and textured, and just use this flat image, then try and spend my time trying to figure out how to get that kind of 3D effect. So right now, as much as I think that having that kind of 3D effect would be cool, right now I think it would be my time would be better used just finishing the model and getting it textured. And so for now, unless I figure out another way, this is how I'm going to get that star background out the window. Now the next thing I wanted to test out were the lights in the room, because I realized that ideally I would have wanted the light to be coming from the window, coming into the window, and so you have the light. But again, I'm not quite sure how I would do that. So primarily the the environment is going to be lit by the lights in the room. So it's going to be a bit of artificial lights in the room. And so, you can see on the sketch that I did that these blue squares are supposed to be lights. And I thought this would be a good opportunity, a good chance to use this technique, or this method, the light method that I learned last year. Now, I didn't learn this method because of college, or because of college work. I learned this in my own free time, and I used this on another model I did. I can't remember what it was at the moment. But it was because it was for the was it for the screen of the computer in. Oh yeah, no, it was because of a personal project that I was working on. But I thought that using this technique would might help in this project. So basically, what this does, if I go back and I put this square back, zoom back in on it, as you can see, if I get rid of I'll go into rendered view and get into rendered view. You can see that, of course, this texture kind of lights up, and I used a diffused modifier. Is it a diffused? Used modifier on it, and added a bit of a glow feature to the texture of the object. So of course it glows, so it looks like it's glowing in the dark. Which as you can see works great, and it's working like I planned it would. Here it is. This is what I was looking for. So in order to get this effect, I needed to make my own material. And needed to make it an emission surface, and add a glow feature to it, and really, and once I add the glow feature to it. Where is it? Oh, there we go. Bloom. That's the one. It's got Bloom feature to it. And I had to raise the intensity to all the way. And yes, it makes this kind of nice glowing glowing effect to it. But unfortunately, if I turn off the light here, unfortunately, it doesn't light the textures or the environment around it. Now, the only way to do this would be to take the rendered image, the rendered engine, and take it from Eevee or switch it from Eevee to Cycles. Now, and Cycles is what allows it to reflect on other textures, as you can see. Now, the problem with using Cycles is that it kind of demands a bit more on the computer and kind of takes up a bit more information, a bit more space. The benefit is that it leads to more high quality renders. So if I'm going to use this technique to light the room, then I'm gonna have to when I render the image out, the the completed screenshots out, it's going to have to be in the Cycles engines, because otherwise you obviously won't get this kind of reflected light. Light. If I go, but the again, as I said, it takes a lot more stress on the computer because it's using more information, it's using more memory. But I think it would be worth it. As I hopefully the amount of the image or the light I need for the scene. Hopefully that I don't think that will be too much on the computer. I just need to keep in mind that using the Cycles engine demands more on the computer, so I need to be more careful when moving the camera in the engine or in the Cycles engine, or moving the camera or moving certain objects, because I don't want to. And again, of course, I don't want the computer to crash. I don't want the computer to give up, um, and of course lose all the work the work that I might have been doing. So I will. So when I start texturing, I'll probably only use the Cycles engines to see if the glow is working, and two, at the very end of the project when I'm taking the screenshots. Those will probably be the only times I'm using the Cycles engine, because again, using the Cycles engine can be very slow and cumbersome, because again, it's trying when I move the camera here, it's trying to update itself quickly and trying to update the image so you can see it, so it kind of rebuilds the image from whatever angle you're looking at. So those are the kind of things I need to keep in mind when I start texturing, when I start working with the rendering engine. Going back. So yes, those are the things that I learned from my research into texturing, and I may have I may I may have to I will probably continue my research when I start choosing other textures that I think would be useful, other textures that I think would work for the model. Or I'll probably add them, include them here, and talk about them. So the next thing I talked about, or the next few sections that I worked on, and the other sections that I worked on. First, I worked on this risk assessment because part of the checklist is using a risk assessment and coming up with a backup plan. And now, at first, had a lot of trouble finding the risk assessment document, but eventually I managed to find it. Now, I wasn't sure if this was what Rob was hoping for, what Rob was meant when he talked about doing a risk assessment, and so I just kind of assumed that he probably wanted us to do it the same way we did in the last project. And so what I did, I just made a copy and changed a few things and filled out the assessment, and hopefully that's what he meant, and hopefully this will be he'll be okay with this. Because of course otherwise I have to come up with another idea. I come up with I'll do it again, and then probably use a different document. But as for the backup plan, I talked about how I kind of have I already thought about the backup plan before I got into the project itself, and that I've mentioned before I wanted to use a program, a 3D modeling program that I'd be able to use at college and at home, and that was one of the main reasons why I chose Blender for this project, because I feel like Maya would be I have a horrible feeling that Maya would be cause too many problems, and I might get locked out of the model, the free extent the free what's it called, the limited account that I could use might lock me out, because that's what happened last time. Was I tried use, and even I signed up again because it's supposed to be I think it's like a six is it like 6 months or something, in a 6 months free account. And even after I signed up again, it still wouldn't let me on, and I didn't want to get into that situation when I have this big project to finish. So that's first of all that's why I chose Blender. So that was my first backup plan. Um, the backup plan I've thought of recently was maybe downloading my FMP folder to another USB, just in case I happen to lose it, or maybe for whatever reason, because I kind of almost had that in college when I plugged it in. I plugged it into the computer and it didn't register, and I kind of got a bit worried, and I had to put it back in again, and it worked that time. But just in case it might happen again. And the most likely thing probably to happen to it is probably I'll just lose it, but that's why I'm being extra careful. But I thought just in case, just as a backup plan, probably be a good idea to download the FMP folder into another USB. Yeah. I haven't done that yet, but this is just another backup plan that I've thought of. But probably, as I keep saying, it probably would be a good idea to do that, just in case. As well, not only would I've talked about adding the FMP folder or file, you can see here. Not only that, but I've also started keeping a copy of the Blender file itself for the captain's office. I've made a backup copy of the file. I just again the problem with the making a copy of the file is that I just need to stay on top of it. I just need to keep updating it. And I'm always worried when I try, so like when I delete an old version of the copy and try and put in a new version, I'm always worried that I'm gonna delete the original version, and that's why I get so stressed about doing that, because I don't want to hit the wrong one. But so far I've made the first copy. Yeah, and then I've updated it to the latest version of the model or the project. So far it's the backup is doing fine at the moment. The next thing I talked about was the reliable sources and how you can find reliable sources, and how useful the crap test can be for judging websites on whether they've got the accurate data. Have they got current data? Have they got accurate data? As in, like, who's written it, and what's the purpose of the date of the information that exists. Is it there to sell you? Does it have a bias? Is it there to sell you something? Is it there to inform you or teach you or entertain? But also I find out about relevance. So, obviously you might find a site where not everything in that site is going to be useful. Not everything in that site is might say what you want to say. You might find a site that it might only have a paragraph or two that might be relevant for what you're working on. But it's better to take those two than just copy an entire page of useless information. And then I talked about how useful it is to sniff out good information in websites, or good websites. And I've talked about an example from my own research, and how I talked about how I went to ArtStation to look for industry professionals, because I know ArtStation is a very professional site, as in they're very strict about the kind of work or artwork that they allow on the website, because they only want professionals to work at, or professionals to be able to show their work. So not just anyone, not just any random person can just output their substandard work. It has to be brilliant in order for them to show it. But also, ArtStation is a site for professionals, as in they can set up jobs, set up stores to buy different items, and to talk about work, to discuss work. And so I think so. And a site like that I think is a very dependable site for good information and good defined quality artists that I can talk about, and so that's why I used it. And then I talked about like the opposite example, and talked about how like the Steam customer reviews are not the most accurate, or not the most shall we say useful places for information, because yes, it's kind of might be interesting to understand what the customers are saying about a certain product, but not everyone goes into the kind of detail needed to get a good, clear, balanced opinion or view of a game, or the performance of a game. So all these reviews are very subjective, obviously. Whereas obviously someone like IGN or GameStop, they're a bit more fair. They give the game a full review. They look at all the attributes to the game, and judge it on that. And And so looking at reviews like that are more useful or more beneficial, and so that's why I used IGN review here for Infinite Warfare, because they give a more balanced view on the game and the overall of their overall enjoyment of the game and what they thought about it. Next, I talked about the next thing I talked about was quantitative and qualitative information or data. So I've got these two confused. Is a quantitative data is using numbers and figures. So using like numerical data to offer a view on something, or to be able to judge something, to find more data on something. And whereas quantitative information is more about people's opinions and about what people say and people's feelings about certain things. And I've talked about how I've given examples of both, of using both, and how important it can be to first of all know the difference between these two forms of collecting data, but also and how they can be used. But I also talked about how I've used them on my site. I like how a quantitative example would be the survey, and how the survey automatically makes these pie charts, so that I can have a clear view on what everyone else's opinions of the question that I ask. But a qualitative example would be the focus group that I did, and where I asked members of my class what they thought, in more detail. I asked more detailed questions about what they thought about my project, hoping to get more detailed answers back. And I've talked about and and said that yes, that was useful, because it's given me a lot of new things. They brought up a lot of concerns and a lot of things good things to think about and good things to take into consideration. Moving on from the project. And then I've also talked about the data analysis. Now, data analysis, according to the checklist, means charts and data. So, and for being honest, I wasn't really sure what to do for this section. So I thought it'd be a good idea to show an example of how I've used, or show an example of how I've used data. I've used charts and data in my site, and I've shown this. The two examples I've shown here. This chart that I found that kind of breaks up the Call of Duty fan base into different groups based on gender and age. And also the second example I shown was the sales figures for Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, and how much it sold in comparison to other games from the series. And so these are the two examples I managed to find on my site. Now, and I think this is what they meant, and I think I've done it right. But I think I'll ask when I get back to class on Friday. I'll ask and see if I'm right about this. Now, before moving on, and I haven't done this part yet, the competitors part yet, because I'm kind of a bit confused on what to talk about. As in last year, Lewis explained that competitors can be people who are doing the same thing to you and might get in your way, or get in the way of as an example, get in the way of like a promotion, or get in the way of a job. And he mentioned how the competitors and the going all the way back down, the professional, the um, industry professionals can almost be the same thing. And his advice, well, last year anyway, was that to put them together. Now, I don't want to do that just yet. For this project, and I asked Dave last week, and he suggested that I look into like other sci-fi games, and look into how they've modeled, or how they've the things that they've done. And I'm still not, I haven't done it yet, because I'm still not sure if that's what Rob means, or that's what he meant. So I think on Friday, or maybe another day, I might, next week, I might ask again, or ask Rob this time, and get a clear answer on what I'm supposed to do for this section, so that I make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to. So, uh, so for now, I can leave that for now, until I get a more definite answer. This next part I've been working on, that I'm still working on, is about symbiotics. And symbiotics are about how the study of signs and symbols, and symbiotics are used quite often in games. And the whole point of the whole kind of point of it, actually a successful game, I suppose, is that the player is supposed to be led into different places, or led into different area, or different situations, without being without knowing it. They're supposed to just uh, the they're just supposed to go along with the experience, and not realize that they're being led anywhere. That's how you know. That's how you know you've got good symbiotics. Is that it's not blatantly, the developers aren't just blatantly telling you what you can and can't do. It's a bit more subtle. They have a bit more. And one example I brought up, or that Rob brought up recently, was about these yellow boxes in Resident Evil, the new Resident Evil game. And in the new game, they've added this yellow paint, or this yellow tape, onto walls, or onto windows and boxes, saying that these things can be broken. These are breakable items. And it's kind of started a bit of a debate into symbiotics and into their place. And some people think that games are making it too easy for them, and saying how that the older games did a better job of symbiotics. In that, I found out when I was doing the research, I found out in the original Resident Evil 4, they had a lighter texture for the breakable items, so that obviously when they opposed to the darker textures in other items, the lighter texture would show up and would be a bit more obvious. And I thought that was a good idea. I thought that would made a lot of sense. But as well as upgrading the but other people say that as well as upgrading the graphics to a more modern standard, that game features or game mechanics also have to be updated to modern day standards as well. And this kind of more obvious symbiotics is part of that, to kind of help new players into get a grips with the game. So that's what I found out when I was doing my research. And I found other examples of symbiotics, about how, like in Horizon Forbidden West, walls that can be climbed have this yellow tape on them, so that the player can see that yes, they can be used. Same thing in Uncharted, except the stones that you can use have a white paint to them, so that so the player knows that they can be used. They can be used to climb across the wall. Oh, those are the two examples of symbiotics I could find. Now, I was trying to think about how I could show symbiotics, or how I could show my design choices is in my model, the model I'm the model I'm doing now, because being on it, I didn't really take symbiotics into account when I was making the model, designing the model. But there were a lot of other things. Now, whether I absent-mindedly did include kind of symbiotic um, factors into the model without thinking. That's a great thing, a good thing. The fact that I'm thinking in that way. But I don't think I didn't think I didn't. Well, the point is, I don't think I thought about it into enough depth. But I think that if I thought about symbiotics beforehand, or if I researched into symbiotics before actually making the level or making the room, I think I would have come up with a better environment. I'd probably come up with a better, more, shall we say, play friendly environment. But again, and for this project anyway, I don't have to think about the. I'm not adding a player to it, so I don't have to think about how. But I am still. There are probably the way that I probably designed this level so far is probably there are probably a lot of other things in the model that are probably not very player friendly, but I just don't realize. I just don't realize it yet. Or if I did a bit more research into it, I probably would have found out that maybe I should have designed it in a different way. But I did, when I was designing the level, when I was designing the room, I did try and think about it in a more, shall we say, what's the word? Yeah, I suppose in a more player perspective way, as in kind of imagining myself, or imagining being in this room, um, what I wanted this room to look like. If someone was sitting in this room, if someone was in this room, and imagining what I wanted it to look like. And so that's kind of the, shall we say, basic symbiote. I think that's a better way of putting it. As in, like, if I did a bit more research, I probably gonna did a bit more, shall we say, advanced symbiotics into the room. I could have added that those features into the room. Whereas for considering I didn't do that, I probably the kind of thinking, or the kind of symbiotics that I've already added to the level is probably very basic, like, right now. Oh, Rob showed us this person's site. Right? He is currently a collision designer at Santa Monica Studios. He has a huge in-depth level of knowledge into level design, and how levels should be laid out, and how some levels need to be different ways levels can be broken up, and how to make a space more interesting or more exciting for the player. And on his website he shows, like, lots of other games he's worked on, lots of more indie games he's worked on, his other hobbies. He's like script writing, and another thing, 3D art. But the main reason Rob told us about him, and pointed him into his direction, his website's direction, is because as he does um, these amazing level design sheets. And in these sheets he goes into huge amounts of detail about how the developers have set up the level, and different techniques that they've used, and how it improves the player's experience, and how they use certain things to tell a story, and to keep the player engaged. And it was these things, that he's used to. It was these things that got him the job working working at Santa Monica. It was these things that got him the job working on the next God of War, or because he showed such inept detail and knowledge chosen into level design, and that's what got him the job. And Rob was talking about it and saying how we could use the same method, the same ideas on our own prefer our skills. And point things out that we can see, and why we've made things in a certain way, and talk about our thinking and our planning behind things. And so this is what I'm trying to do now, or this is what I want to try and do now. So this is what the model looks like at the moment. And right now I'm just kind of talking about my thinking or my planning behind the model, my very basic planning and thinking that went behind the model. And I haven't finished it yet, but this is what I've done so far. And I haven't finished this section. I haven't finished this section yet. I still have more things to talk about. But yep, that's most of the work that I've done this week. As I said, my plan so far. First, I want to try and finish this. And I want to finish this off and talking about in more detail, talking about my thinking, my design plan, if you will, for the room. Then I want to update the Trello board, add a bit more detail to the Trello board, and tick off some things from the checklist as to kind of show that I'm making progress. I want to try and get a bit more, shall we say, detail, a bit more on what I should do for the competitors section, and then for the competitor section, and but because then of course then I can start working on that, because I want, as I mentioned at the beginning, I want to try and get as much written work completed before the holiday, because in that holiday I just wanted the entire holiday I wanted to start working on the model, just completely modeling. Because I feel like I could really make some big improvements, or some big some big improvements in that time. I really feel I could make some progress. I also need to talk about these two videos. As I said, I haven't done that yet. Need to talk about those two videos and why I've used them. And that's anyway. That the last video is just the video I found out how to make that glowing effect. But yeah, I think that's everything I have to talk about so far. I've kind of mentioned everything I wanted to say. So far, just want to get as much written work done as possible, so then I can start making. I hope to make some good progress over the course of the holiday, and just focus on the modeling. Because again, let's go to the checklist. Because I still have legal and ethical section to do. So I'm quickly making. I feel I'm quickly making progress, but I just need to keep going and continue the pace I'm going. But at the moment, I think I've talked about everything. I think I'm making good progress so far. I'm actually kind of shocked how much research I've done so far. Considering only started like recently. Well, feels like I've only started recently, and yet look how much I've written and talked about. I'm quite happy with myself, quite pleased with myself, because I always when I'm starting these projects, I always feel like I'm falling behind. I always feel like I'm not gonna do enough, and yet I keep surprising myself by doing work like this and going into such detail about things. But anyway, happy with the progress I'm making. I think that's it. Thank you, everyone, and